This is a scary story that I was told by my grandfather. Back in the days, we worked as farmers, and after every rice harvest there were haystacks being placed in the front yard. These piles of hay had different uses. They could be used for feeding calves, building roofs, or making fire. The haystacks were also used as the playthings for kids in the village, as they climbed up and down all day without being bored. The women were usually seen sitting next to the piles, chatting, knitting, etc. It was safe to say that those haystacks were etched on the village's memory. During that time, there was a pile of hay that was believed to be haunted by ghosts. It was placed near the forest, and everyone avoided walking near to it at night. One day, a young man had to work outside in the afternoon and return home late at night. Despite knowing it was dangerous to encounter the haystack at this specific time, he had no other choice, as it was the only path that led to his home. It was only him walking on the path. He thought of the scary stories of the villagers and felt a shiver run down his spine, but still believed nothing bad would happen to him, as he wasn't a squeamish guy. But what happened next was completely out of his expectation. It was on that night he'd witnessed something truly horrific. The man screamed loudly as he looked at the haystack. His face turned pale, he panicked and trembled uncontrollably. As the villagers took him home, the man was still scared and trembling. He covered himself with a blanket. No one knew what made him behave like that. He tremblingly covered his face with his hands and then muttered something under his breath. Sometimes people heard him say words like "ghost" or "eyeless." A while later, another scary incident took place. One day, the man's son suddenly became stubborn and cried a lot, which was very out of character. But the man seemingly not to be bothered about it, as he kept on watching TV and ignoring him. His wife was very upset to see him behaving so irresponsibly. She angrily asked him why he didn't calm their child and played with him. The man was irritated. He said, "There's no need to calm him down. He'll stop crying anyway." What the man said was unacceptable to his wife. She vented her frustration on him and scolded him badly. For the past 2 months, the man had always been lying at home and refusing to find a job, even though they were running out of money. Despised by his wife, the man spoke loudly. "Why don't you just go out there and look for a job on your own? Stop acting like you know everything when you don't." The woman was triggered by her husband's remarks. For the past 2 months, it was her who took care of the family and fed everyone. The man now became even more furious. In a moment of anger, he told his wife to take their child and go back to her mama's house, living a happy life, as he was no longer financially capable of nursing them. The woman didn't expect that one day she would be humiliated like this. She packed her clothes and left the house with the child. The man now regretted for what he had said to her. He knew it was late, and going out at this time would be dangerous, but he didn't want to lower his ego for them. So he intended to pick them up the next morning, as he wanted to give his wife time to cool down her anger. Moreover, it had been quite long for her to visit her parents, so this could be an opportunity for a family reunion. The woman also regretted having been too harsh with her husband, which was also way too out of character for her. Besides, it was a terrible idea to go out this late. As they walked to the path on which the spooky haystack was placed, her child trembled uncontrollably. He grabbed her shirt, feeling scared and wanted to go home. But similar to her husband, the woman didn't want to deflate her ego. She reassured her son that he didn't have to be scared, as she was here with him. As they kept walking, they had a feeling of someone stalking them. As the child expressed his anxiety to her, she knew there was definitely someone following them. When they got closer to the haystack, the child started trembling more violently. He held his mom's hands tightly. The woman felt extremely anxious. Her forehead was dripping with cold sweat. The haystack now looked creepier than it normally was. In the sky, the moon was covered by layers of clouds. Only a shaft of moonlight shone down the path. The freakish coldness soon prevailed the village. As her anxiety became greater, she heard the sound of light footsteps behind her. She turned around to check if there was anyone, but the pitch darkness together with the empty space made her become more terrified. Suddenly the kid held out, which startled her. He pointed out at someone in front of her who was standing next to the haystack. It was sheer luck to know that there were still people being here with her this late. The woman felt less scared now as she gave a sigh of relief. There were two people to be seen at the spot. One wore a blue shirt and the other wore a red one. They appeared to be a boy and a girl. Since they were standing in the darkness, she couldn't make them out clearly. The two were facing their backs at the woman and her child. She called them, but none of them reacted. Thinking they didn't hear her voice, she walked closer to them. The woman could tell by the two's appearance that they were two kids who were around 10 years old, as she asked them why they were out here this late. The two still ignored her question despite her being very close to them. The woman then patted on the blue shirt kid's shoulder, whom she believed to be the older one. Instantly the kids turned around and stared at her, but their faces didn't look like those of normal human beings, as only bones and teeth were there to be seen. There was no flesh on their faces. Their eye sockets were empty and completely black, which gave her an impression that they were staring into her soul. Feeling shocked and panicked, she let out a fierce scream and fell backwards. As her head hit the ground, she fainted while her son was crying out loud, helplessly watching his mom being in danger. After the incident, the woman's health declined as she was still haunted by the horrific scene. After having a checkup, the woman was told by the doctor that she was suffering from a psychological disorder which was caused by depression and pressure. But as soon as the doctor finished his sentence, the woman sat up and constantly yelled, "Ghosts! Ghosts! There are ghosts!" in an extremely horrified manner. The husband quickly hugged his wife so she wouldn't jump off her bed. He comforted her, then asked her what had happened, but the woman just kept repeating the word eyeless. Both the husband and the doctor were in utter bewilderment. They couldn't figure out what had caused the woman to be so scared. As the man knew he couldn't get any information from his wife, he turned his attention to his son. The child was still fearfully trembling, eyes filled with tears. He bursted out crying loudly as his father asked them about the incident. He told his dad everything, from the moment they walked near the haystack to when they saw the ghosts and how his mom fainted. But before the child could return home and inform his dad, the two ghosts had disappeared into the pile of hay. The husband and the doctor gazed at each other, sensing something bizarre. Lately they had heard rumors about the spooky haystack. A few weeks ago, a person was reported to develop a mental illness after having an encounter with it. The next morning, the husband went to see the village chief and inform him about the incident. Just like him, the villagers had agreed to remove the ghostly haystack at once. Some young men brought their tools to get rid of it. As they reached deeper to the bottom of the haystack, they smelled a foul stench coming out of it. When they finally removed the haystack, what was buried underneath instantly terrified them. Out of curiosity, the villagers quickly gathered around the spot. What appeared before their eyes were the corpses of two children who were at the age of 10. They were badly decomposed. Only human bones and their clothes, including the red shirt and the blue shirt, were left to be found. The police quickly arrived at the scene. Turned out that the children were from the nearby village. They had been reported missing 3 months ago. Their parents thought they had been kidnapped as they couldn't find them anywhere. But to everyone's amazement, the children were believed to hide underneath the haystack, only to suffocate and turn into ghosts wandering around this place.